Some losses make us believe that time will heal everything. But the truth is, time doesn't erase the pain. It only hides it beneath layers of silence. Many people turn away, locking the memories inside, thinking that avoiding them will bring peace. Yet real peace often begins when we face the wound, when we dare to let go, and carry love forward into the present. Tonight's story is about a man, an unfinished painting, and the journey of learning how to let go, not by forgetting, but by finding a new way to remember. After Margaret's death, Daniel put away his brushes. He had been a painter for 40 years, capturing faces, fields, and seasons on canvas. But when the woman he loved, the woman who had been his muse, his critic, his anchor, slipped away in the sterile quiet of a hospital room, the colors bled out of his world. The easel in his studio still held the portrait he had been working on. Margaret, smiling faintly, her hand resting on her swelling belly. The day she died during childbirth, Daniel turned the canvas to face the wall. He couldn't bear it. The brush marks felt like open wounds. Life shrank to a gray routine. He raised their daughter Lily as best as he could, packing lunches, folding laundry, tucking her in at night. But there was always a space between them, a silent distance where the laughter of her mother should have been. Daniel loved her, but he was afraid to look too closely into her eyes. They carried too much of Margaret in them. Years drifted by. Lily grew, as children do, her hair dark like her mother's, her energy bright and unyielding. Daniel aged, as widowers do. His back stooped a little, his voice softer, as though speaking too loudly might awaken a grief he'd worked so hard to keep quiet. Then, one rainy afternoon, when Lily was 12, she climbed up to the attic. She was looking for old photo albums for a school project. Instead, she stumbled upon a stack of canvases under a sheet, and at the very back, turned to the wall, was the painting. She brought it down to the living room, her small hands gripping the frame. "Dad," she said, "why didn't you finish this?" Daniel froze. The portrait looked back at him, the strokes half alive, the eyes missing their depth, the background still bare. Margaret's face hovered between presence and absence, as though she were waiting to step back into the room. He felt anger rise, then sorrow, then a kind of trembling fear. "That's not for you," he said, his voice harsher than he intended. He reached to take it from her. But Lily clutched it tight. "It is for me," she whispered. "That's Mom. That's the only time I'll ever see her with me." Her words split him open. For years he had thought the painting was a wound best left untouched. But for Lily, it was a doorway she had never been allowed to walk through. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He walked into the studio, where Lily had propped the painting against the wall. The smell of old turpentine still lingered, though he hadn't touched the bottles in years. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, falling across the canvas, illuminating Margaret's unfinished smile. He sat in the old wooden chair and stared. And for the first time, instead of pain, he felt something else, a pull, a quiet urging. His daughter's plea echoed inside him. "That's the only time I'll ever see her with me." Days passed before he dared to pick up a brush. His hands shook. The paints were stiff, the colors reluctant. He dabbed a little here, a little there, then stepped back, terrified he was betraying her memory. But the more he worked, the more he realized he wasn't just painting Margaret. He was painting the years he had denied, the moments he had locked away. And slowly, Lily began to sit beside him after school. She'd ask questions about her mother, how she laughed, how she sang off-key when she cooked, how she insisted on planting roses in the yard every spring. Daniel answered, sometimes haltingly, sometimes with a sudden rush, as if the dam inside him had finally cracked. The painting came alive, stroke by stroke. Margaret's eyes deepened, the curve of her lips softened. The background bloomed into a garden, Margaret's garden, alive with lavender and daisies. Daniel painted her with one hand resting protectively over her unborn child, while sunlight spilled across her shoulders like a blessing. One evening, as he added the final touches, Daniel felt Lily lean against his arm. Her head rested there lightly, and for a moment, he thought he could feel both his daughter and his wife beside him, joined in the same quiet breath. When the last stroke was done, he sat back, exhausted, trembling. The painting wasn't perfect. It never could be, but it was whole. And so, in a way, was he. Weeks later, they hung the portrait in the living room. Guests came by and neighbors admired it. But for Daniel and Lily, it wasn't decoration. It was presence. It was a bridge across years of silence. As summer arrived, the garden outside burst into color. Daniel began tending it again, guided by the memory of Margaret's hands in the soil. He showed Lily how to plant the roses just as her mother had, their roots deep and stubborn. One evening, they sat on the porch together, watching fireflies rise from the grass. The painting glowed softly through the window behind them, Margaret's eyes warm, her smile eternal. Daniel looked at his daughter, who was laughing at the flicker of the lights, and he realized, with a sudden clarity, that life wasn't about finishing what had been lost. It was about carrying it forward, letting it breathe into the present. The unfinished painting had been waiting, not to trap him in grief, but to lead him out of it. And as night settled over the garden, the stars blinking awake above the darkened trees, Daniel felt something shift. The world was still heavy with absence, yes, but it was also alive with renewal, like a canvas once abandoned, now alive with color. He closed his eyes, breathing deep. Somewhere in the rustle of leaves, he thought he could hear Margaret's voice, soft and steady. "You've brought me home." And for the first time in 12 years, Daniel allowed himself to believe it.